Alright, so we're going to go to episode 3. Now this is where it starts to get really interesting, because now they're talking about the legend of the Yamashita gold. Instead of going to the location and start digging, they're starting to dig into the theories and everything. They need to talk to me. Call me. I'll help you out here. So they were talking about Yamashita being in the Philippines. And like I said, Yamashita came into the Philippines in 1943. The Japanese invaded the Philippines in December 8th, 1941, the exact same time that they bombed Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor happened on December 7th. Japanese invaded on December 8th, but it was only like within a few minutes, just a few minutes apart. So they invaded the same time as they invaded Pearl Harbor. So Yamashita's in Malaysia at this time, and what he did was he was brilliant. He just made some stupid military tactics that the British fell for. And basically what he did was he had trucks during the day or at night drive to like one side of the Singapore from Malaysia. So it made it look like they were going to attack on that side. And they could see soldiers getting out, but what they couldn't see was the soldiers getting back into the empty trucks, supposedly empty trucks, and then driving back to the starting point, and that's all they did all night long. So it looked like they were having like thousands of soldiers they had 30,000 troops in Malaysia, and they thought it was going to be attacking over there. So they brought the British troops to that area, which weakened their defense on the bridge to Malaysia, and then that's where the Japanese attacked. And the Japanese were not very friendly people. They went to the hospitals, they killed patients, they raped women, and when Singapore was falling and they evacuated the city, they just took the British nationals out and the white British nationals and left the Chinese Singaporeans to stay. And so many people to this day despise the Japanese in Singapore, the older generation, and then they despise the British for leaving them. So in March of 1941, Singapore was invaded by Yamashita, and he became really super popular. So they sent him to Manchuria to watch over, in 1942, sent him to Manchuria to watch over the Japanese troops in China. And then when MacArthur and them started, the Australians, MacArthur and the British soldiers started island hopping back, they sent him to the Philippines because they believed that he could defeat the Americans in the Philippines. So in this episode, they see a flower or 3 little carvings on a rock, and he said, "It's a flower." And they said, "Okay, we'll look up the code and the kanji code." And they said it wound up being a bomb symbol. And then they said Yamashita was handpicked by Golden Lily to protect the Philippines. No, the Japanese were losing the war at this time. Yamashita was the best general that they had in the Japanese military, and they did not want to lose the Philippines. So they sent him to the Philippines to defeat the Americans. And his saying was something to the effect, I asked General Percival, "Are you here to retire? To surrender?" And I expect to ask MacArthur the same question. And so after when the Americans the Allies defeated the Japanese in the Philippines, he surrendered in September of 1945, and they put him on trial for crimes against humanity, even though he was not in country at the time. He was only in the country for about a year, and MacArthur wanted to punish somebody. And Yamashita said to the fact, if I didn't take the blame, someone else is going to. So he took the blame for the crimes against humanity, and they they wound up hanging him in Manila, in Fort Bonifacio, I believe it is. And so there's two forts right next to each other, and these two forts are military stuff. This is where he was hung. This is actually the forts that military bases that took place that were very important roles in the overthrow of Marcos. And so they went to Cagayan to get more of a feel of the Japanese, where he surrendered. Now, he surrendered close to Baguio. So it was September 1945. It was 18 days after Japan officially surrendered to the United States forces. And they were like, why did it take him 18 days? Why did it take him 18? Well, maybe they had to get a message to him to surrender. Now, remember, he's living in a cave at this time. It's not like they have cell phones. All right, Joe, we're done. Give it up. I mean, there was a guy that surrendered in, I believe, 1972. A Japanese soldier surrendered in the Philippines in 1972. There were soldiers in Guam that were still running around in the 60s because it was hard to get notification to the soldiers. So 18 days after Japan surrendered, Yamashita surrendered, and it probably took probably 7 to 10 days to get a message to him, and he probably had to organize stuff before he could formalize the surrender. He lived in a cave, and that's what a lot of them did. If you go to Okinawa, there's a lot of caves. The Japanese bunkers were enormous. There is a big cave system in the southern part of Okinawa where the Japanese military lived. And they're like, maybe he had a secondary cave, and they're over exaggerating. Their minds are just wandering, going everywhere at this point in time. So they wanted to go to Dalton Pass, which is 85 miles south of their mountain, their gold find here. And they said, why would the Japanese build a cave system on the east coast of the island? Well, if you look at the Philippines, the Americans and Japanese both attacked on the west side north of Baguio. It would make sense to put it on the east side just in case the Americans attacked on the east. Plus, like I said, one of the defenses was to make an outline right on the coast of the Philippines on Luzon, so anywhere the Americans attacked, that they could have a message or a defense system. That is probably what this cave is a defensive system where if the Americans come in, they could either call somebody or they could defend the Philippines. Now, they're talking about they found a hand grenade under the rock. This could have been a booby trap for if an American or anybody that didn't belong in the Japanese battalion in that camp, if they walked in, they pulled it, they blew up. And it wound up being a defensive mechanism, a preventative to keep people out that shouldn't be in. So it winds up, they could have carved those holes in the rock just to say, look, this is where the bomb begins, and this is where the bomb is, and this is where you do not walk between these two lines here. You got these three, you walk around it. And that's probably what those marks were for. All right, so then they go to Baguio, and they want to talk to Roger Rojas' son, Henry. Now, Henry was there when the National Police came into the house, and they stole the bars of gold, and they stole his mother's coin collection, and they stole the golden Buddha statue. Now, what they didn't say is Henry is a treasure collector, and he has a museum in Baguio dedicated to his father, treasure hunting in the Philippines, and he has a very extensive collection. The funny thing about Henry Rojas' museum is that he has a Buddha statue in there, and he says this is a replica, but his Buddha statue comes from Thailand, or more of a Thailand, Indonesian style Buddha. The Buddha statue that his father found was more of a Burmese Indian Buddha statue. So there's a totally complete different look. The one he has the big stupa hat that comes up like this in the in the museum, while the fake one and the real one had a round head. And you can tell by me standing next to the fake one, that's what it looked like. It's not even close to what Henry has in his museum. But Henry is a treasure collector, and he does go cave hunting, and he has a museum of all the items he's found over the last 30-40 years searching through the Philippines in cave systems, and it's very extensive. It's very impressive. But he didn't say the whole truth about a lot of stuff, or they asked him to exaggerate, because the coin collection was stolen by the National Police. So when he opened up the coin collection, he said these is his father's coins. Either his father had them hidden or placed away, but as all accounts in the Hawaii court documents, they were stolen by the National Police. And a lot of the bills look brand new. So I'm not saying that he's lying. He might be a little bit over exaggerating, saying his mother did collect coins. So it is kind of a strange thing. And he said that his father got a map from a sick Japanese soldier. And I believe the name was Fujiyama Fujimoto. I'll have to look it up. But anyways, the son of the soldier was actually his search partner. So I don't know where this came up. This is the first time I ever heard of a sick Japanese soldier. All I know was a Japanese man, and he worked with Rojas in searching behind the hospital, and he had a map. And he said that when he was a kid, he actually went in and he took coins out, he took gold out in order for the soldiers to be able to buy food from the locals. And he said he had 17 bars of gold that were taken by the Philippine government, but he also took the coin collection. And so when Rojas went to the city hall, he demanded to know why, and the judge said Marcos told him not to give the permit so he could collect the gold and turn it into the government. Marcos just wanted to steal it, so he would not give him the permit. And so they returned the fake Buddha statue after the press came in and wanted to see the gold. And that's the Buddha statue you see on the page there. That's that's the picture you see on the opening of this video here. And so the museum was actually shown on Expedition Unknown with Josh Gates. And now I'm starting to think, is this the same cave that Josh Gates went into? Because I really don't understand, because it's starting to look a little bit like that cave. And Henry took Josh Gates into a cave, and they did search around a little bit on it. And they did find rusty nails and everything inside the cave. And so they found coins inside the cave, a potato masher, like I said, a hand grenade, probably a booby trap, probably had a tripwire in case somebody walked in or tried to attack them. They would get blown up. And they found a coin. They're like, what's a coin doing in here? Well, I've been in caves and I've found 50, 100, 200 coins. Unfortunately, they were stolen from me down the road, which was really, really disappointing. And they all were stolen. And so, but all the coins were all situated in one little small area, and which is a weird thing. It looked like a separate room, but it dropped down. It was probably a 4x8 room area. And we were digging around in the mud. That's where we found some hand grenades, a watch, coins, and stuff like that. And most of these coins were called sen, S-E-N, and these were the coins from pre-World War II. And one actually had a sun over Mount Fuji. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I think it was 1 sen. And it was the coolest looking coin I ever seen. And so what were they doing there? The soldiers probably had money to get paid, and they probably were using the coins either to gamble with or to go and buy food with. And so that's where the coins were probably in that cave for. And other than that, we'll see what next week brings on. I love y'all. Bye-bye.